bow down with you. When can I be faithful? There's nothing in this fire. What was I supposed to? Bow down with you. Where can I be faithful if no one in this world's like you? We're dead butterflies laid out on a sprung floor, waiting for the lone time to pick us up and fly. We're dead butterflies laid down on a sprung floor now, waiting for the lone time to pick us up and fly. Marlin, let me know what you're thinking. Catch feels, wind down, what we figure this out right now. Deja que fluya, perder el control. No queda otra manera de nada mismo. Estoy dispuesta a dar tal cariño. Two-stepping while I move reckless. New sentence moves and news pending. Lose evidence and news trending. Effortlessly truth bending. Who's treacherous? Searching for the feelings of a new friendship. There's but a few endings. Everyone's a win until you lose, brethren. Old times when we used to old time. Never take the most high. Then fucked up the old sky. Line bright lights. I hope I'm feeling that can replenish. Regretful, cause if I let you left me, then I'll be rush roulette. Got a whole full clip now, I'm pow. Catch me with the rippage now, but memories lift me up. I'm still a man's tears dripping down onto these photographs of what we used to be. But over time, the puddles turn into a sea. Hoping myself to cry you a stream. I was surfing on your grief, the hurt I can't believe. I just come to terms if it was me, but who are we? These me's don't reflect perfection, just put on your crepe selection and come to 2 steps into heaven with me. Lay down on a sprung floor now. Sorry, I have to do the chorus too. Waiting for the long time to pick us up and fly. Cause if it's not me, then who's it gonna be, baby? If it's not us, there's nothing in this world for me. We're dead butterflies laid out on a sprung floor now, waiting for the long time to pick us up and fly. What's been happening in your world? What have you been up to? Yeah, I heard that you fell in love, or near enough. I gotta tell you the truth, yeah. I wanna grab shake, baby. Snap out of it, snap out of it. I get the feeling I left it too late. Well, baby, snap out of it, well, snap out of it. That watch don't continue to swing, or if that lady fancies having a sing, I'll be here waiting ever so patiently for you to snap out of it. Forever isn't far. Everyone is forever for you. Yeah, it sounds like settling down or giving up, but it don't sound much like you, girl. I wanna grab both the corners and shake, baby. Snap out of it, snap out of it. I get the feeling I left it too late. Well, baby, snap out of it, snap out of it. That watch don't continue to swing, or if that lady fancies having a sing, I'll be here waiting ever so patiently for you to snap out of it. Under a spell, you're hypnotized. Ooh, darling, how could you be so blind? Under a spell, you're hypnotized. Ooh, darling, how could you be so blind? I wanna grab both the corners and shake, baby. Snap out of it, snap out of it. I get the feeling I left it too late. Well, baby, snap out of it, snap out of it. That watch don't continue to swing. That lady fancies having to sing. I'll be here waiting ever so patiently for you to snap out of it. Okay, everybody, last song. You used to get it in your fishnets, and now you only get it and you're not dressed. Discard out of not enough for niceness, then end of every coming crisis. Everything's an auto in a black hole, but nothing seems so pretty as the past though. The Bloody Mary's lacking in Tabasco. Remember when it used to be a rascal? Oh, the boys are slack. The best you ever had, the best you ever had is just a memory, and those dreams aren't as daft as they seem. One as daft as they seem, my love, when you dream them all. Flicking through a little book of slapsticks. Remember when the boys were all electric, and now she's told she's gonna get it. I'm guessing that she'd rather just forget it. Clinging to not to get sentimental. Said she wasn't going, but she went still. Like a gentleman, not to be gentle. Was gonna make a double while betting pencil. Oh, the boys are sly. The best you ever had, the best you ever had is just a memory, and those dreams aren't as daft as they seem. When as daft as they seem, my love, when you dream them all. Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did falling about. You took a left of last lane, just sounding it out, but you're not coming back again. Falling about, you took a left of last lane, sounding it out, but you're not coming back again. You used to get it in your fishnets, now you only get it in your nightdress. The sky lights are not so nice for niceness, the land end of every comic crisis. Everything's in order in a black hole, but everything's so pretty at the fast road. The blood of every second in Tabasco. Remember when you used to be a rascal? Oh, remember when you used to be a rascal? Let me fix my camera here. I think that's good. Is that good? What's up, everybody? I am NS, or Nerd Slayer. This is the 6 Pixels Under podcast, and I'm here to talk about MMOs, gaming, and yeah, whatever else we feel like talking about, to be honest. It's kind of the topics we obviously focus on the channel, but the thing about virtual worlds in general is that it's a pretty broad subject. You're covering psychology, ecology, economy, religion, sociology, anthropology. I'm running out of ologies, but you get the idea. Geology, craftology. No, I'm just kidding, but I wanted to stream today because, it's a Sunday, but also because there's been some recent news and happenings that I wanted to kind of react to. So let's do that. Let's do it. Sorry, I'm muting myself in the background. Okay. So there were 2 threads, and they were kind of like back-to-back threads that had like similar concepts. We had a remake of Age of Reckoning, aka Warhammer Age of Reckoning, would do insanely well today. I'm not even going to read the premise because I just agree with it, which is that I actually agree with this. And I think most major developers would too. When I spoke to Raph Koster, of course, the developer behind UO, Star Wars Galaxies, and now Stars Reach, soon to come out, he mentioned that like PvP back in the day was a lot harder of a buy and sell to people, but now it's much easier. I mean, you have some of the most popular like PvE games having big PvP scenes even, right? And so I think PvP market or market interest wasn't the reason that Age of Reckoning failed. It had a pretty horrible engine. It was supposed to switch to a different engine, didn't, got delayed, then had to cut a bunch of content. Mark Jacobs was like working on the project, but never, apparently the last 2 years didn't really work on the project. So there was a lot of weird EA drama on that game. So imagine if that came out today with some quality of life improvements and obviously new models and graphics. And I do feel like it would be a big improvement. Now there was a follow-up thread. You guys know I always talk about this game, so you're probably going to see this one coming. But this one was the same premise, but with Wildstar. And in the premise, I'll read the premise now. Great combat, really well-written lore and stories, with plenty of comedy tied in, and an amazing, challenging endgame. Yes, it gets rid of a lot of barriers to entry, and it lowers the player count for rating, and added that's what they're saying to do, and add a mythic system plus to their dungeons. Boom. There's more than enough potential to be profitable and a huge success. Okay. I hate that I have to remind everyone of this every time because I feel like the the evil MMO virtual world guy, when I also like to be the one that talks about hype and fun stuff. But that is not reality. Okay. Was combat in WildStar cool? Yes. Was it good? Yes. I don't think you can argue great. And yes, opinions obviously are opinions, but the reason why I don't think you can argue great is because the combat didn't even function in the raids. Like, look up any raid video, any 40-man video, and it's full of slideshowing and lags. The little DDR, like Dance Dance Revolution things that would pop up on the ground, while it was kind of like a cool concept to have like telegraphables, they would call them, telegraphs. The problem is that it adds to performance. You have 40 players spamming those, including for heals, and it just would ruin people's machines. Add in war plots, which had more players than 40. I don't even remember how many they had, and I tested them in alpha, and I don't remember how many they had, but needless to say, like, it didn't work in alpha, the dungeons or the war plots, aka the in-game PvP, and it didn't work at launch. This is a big reason it failed, guys. Like, people have this revisionist history because most people didn't even make it to max level, or when they did, they played with like a controlled group and they probably had a very good PC. So they're like a person that like essentially skipped all the criticism, right? And you might say, yeah, but not everyone has to have a shit PC and this and so on and so forth. You're right, that's true. But whenever you're making games for broad audiences, aka virtual worlds, you need to think about machines, right? And access. Yeah, it's just strange. Like, I know there's like that emotion's always going to come out. I mean, I made my channel and I told you guys the story before, but I'll say it again. So with the City of Heroes episode, I was really like flabbergasted, like blown away. Like, man, it's crazy that people had such an emotional connection to this, and through my video could feel this stuff. That made me feel like great, because it made me feel like I was doing the virtual world community a service, which I owed so much to this community that taught me my life, gave me my career now, like taught me how to socialize, like taught me how to make friends, helped me make friends online. Made me have so much like countless thousands of hours of enjoyment, and really made me like do a lot of other things, because I've always been a reader, an audiobook person, and a learner. And as I've always been playing MMOs and virtual worlds in general, like MMORPGs as well, like PSO and Final Fantasy 14, or before people get mad at me, something like Monster Hunter. When you play games like this, like there's something very therapeutic about still feeling like you're in a world. And people talk about this a lot, right? This is a common thing where it seems like it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it actually is a big deal to have this like novel experience where you're connected to other people. Now, there's actually an interesting topic off of the topic of WildStar, because we beat up on that game a lot. Was WildStar combat similar to Age of Conan? Good question. Good question, rather. So, little known fact, but I've alpha or closed beta tested pretty much the majority of all virtual worlds that have come out in the past like 20 years. And that's something that I'm very proud of. It started as just like a hobby and loving it as a kid. And I think I built a bit of like a reputation of being a tester. So I, these days, obviously, especially with a YouTube audience and stuff, which I didn't have back then, obviously, it's much easier for me to get noticed and for developers to invite me to test their games, which happens a lot now. One thing I'll say is like, unless I really am a fan of you as a developer or your vision, I'm probably not going to test your game for free. And that's just there's two things there. One, it's about having time and focus on what makes me money, because I have to make money. This is my career. The other thing is that whenever it's like, if you guys have ever worked in like design innovation, I feel like people that work in this kind of field very much like to not necessarily be motivated by money, but know that their interest and expertise and, like nerddom essentially is not being wasted, and wasting something has something to do with time or money, and both usually, but that's kind of how I feel about it. And yeah, and like obviously another part of that too is that testing for me is extremely, extremely immersive. I've been asked this a few times. Why don't you ever show test sessions of like NDA when they drop on streams? And I did it one time, and I had like some of the most viewers I ever had. I had hundreds of viewers, and people kept complaining. And I know this is like a stream culture thing, and this is like a new age thing too. But people kept complaining. They're like, "Oh my God, you're still in the fucking starter zone, fucking around in the settings." And it's like, that's because that's who I am. I will spend an hour in the settings optimizing my play before I ever even fucking play the game. And then I'll run around for another like 2 hours just to see if I can break the movement of the game. Because these are just things that I'm interested in. And maybe it's me being on the spectrum. But I grew up with things like Halo 2. And that Halo 2 mindset seeped into my virtual world, like gaming mindset. It's why I was a big, glitcher, macroer, and UO, and Darkfall, and in many other games too. But those are the biggest games that were kind of known for it. But even games like Smash Brothers, I already mentioned Halo, games that are known for having quote-unquote tech skill, StarCraft, these are games that I've always gravitated towards. So I think it's just partly, I joke about the autism thing, even though I am autistic and on the spectrum because I have CPTSD, but it's more so because I think it's just my brain is really attracted to that kind of stuff, trying to figure out how to break things. And so I think that that obviously is an asset now that I have a bit more of a reputation and an audience, because I can get, consultancy projects and invited to go test games that I never would have thought that I could have been invited to before, and just cool stuff like that. But anyway. Oh, Tribes is another one of my favorites, actually. And Tribes is interesting. So actually, man, I can't spoil it because I'm working on the multiverses video right now, guys. And let me say, it's related to this kind of what we just talked about. And I'll kind of hint at it for you, James, because you're probably aware of what I'm going to get at. I think that's something that gets misinterpreted by games that try to mimic Tribes. And you see this with the new Tribes. And even games that try to mimic Smash, kind of like Multiverses, PlayStation All-Stars, Battle Royale All-Stars, sorry, I forgot the rest of the name. Rivals of Aether, SpongeBob, I forgot what that one's called, Battle of Bikini Bottom or something like that. You know what I'm saying, these platform fighter games. Is that what they don't understand is that these games were never meant to be built like that. And I know that's such a cop-out, right? It's like, oh, they weren't meant to be built that way. That's such a cop-out because it's like, well, what does that actually mean? And now that they are that way, now what? Do we remove the glitches? Do we, you know what I'm saying? Well, what I'm trying to say is that they're not built that way because they could be played normally. Does that make sense? They could just be played normally. The games can be played just normally. Right? The issue with new age shooters, games like Apex Legends, and why people get so burnt out on it, and why it has so many issues, even though I love games with great movement, and same thing that Titanfall had, is that it's overwhelming how many inputs you're going to have to do, and that's not the same as glitching the mechanics. Does that make sense? This is something I shouldn't even talk about this because this is one of my big eureka moments, but I'm giving this to you guys here. But you see what I'm saying? Think about that for a second. If Zero Sins is here, they would know what I'm talking about. In fact, let me ping Discord again to make sure everyone's jumping in. But so, yes, exactly. They're not exactly. It wasn't built that way. So what happens is you have this parallel, which exists in all the Smash games, and all the games I've mentioned, and StarCraft, and many other games, where you have almost two different games being played simultaneously. And have you guys ever noticed this? I went through this experience with Smash Brothers. So I used to do we used to call these lock-ins. So I grew up pretty poor, so I lived with my grandparents instead of my parents. And my grandparents lived in essentially the equivalent of an old person townhome. It's not a retirement home because they weren't quite there yet, but everyone was pretty young and there was only 5 or 6 kids in my neighborhood. But we had a clubhouse because it was kind of a relic of the old people thing. Above it, they would have a bridge. For those that don't know, bridge is gambling with cards and other card games and stuff like that. So the adults would play cards and we would, the grandparents, I should say, because it was mostly grandparents, or younger families. And then it was like us at the clubhouse. So Dungeon Runner's video win. I'll definitely do one, Otaku. I think I saw your post about it. Because I try to read all the comments, as you guys know, about me. And people, of course, are always going to use it as an opportunity to harass or troll me. But here's the thing. I've been on the internet longer than probably 99.99999% of you. And I've been trolling longer than probably 999. So your stamina is just not going to be as long as mine. But I mean, I'll give you a funny story. I talked about this in chat. The new generation is so soft when it comes to trash talk and how they play video games. But I was playing League of Legends, and these guys were being extremely toxic in my team, and I kind of had this hint, this like spider sense that they were a pre-made, but I didn't know, so I was just playing. Thanks, I appreciate it, Otaku. And I was just like, oh, whatever. And so they tell me, they're like, hey, get in chat with us, get in Discord with us. Like, I guess thinking I wouldn't do it. And I was just like, oh, okay, fuck it. I'm that kind of person, you know. I come from the old age of like, I was on the Ventrilo chats when I was like 9. Like, so there's no fear there for me. I was doing AOL, AIM Messenger, Habbo Hotel when I was under 10, you know, 8, 9 years old. So I hop in, and it's 3 little kids. It's 3 little kids. And I was like, all right, what's up, kids? Like, you know, what's up, guys? And they were just like, oh, blah, 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 like, you suck. And I was like, is that it? They were like, what do you mean? And I was like, is that it? Are you done trash talking? Are you done? Is that it? They're like, no, what? And I just start going like on a salvo for like 10 minutes straight. And they cut the chat. And then in the game, because the game's still going on at this, someone in chat's like, bro, you're so old. Why are you even trying to talk to us? And I was like, you guys asked me to chat, and you added me to chat, and then you made fun of me for like a couple of minutes. I don't get it. I just was okay with it. Like, that's what it felt like, Madness. It felt like, but it also felt weird because I felt like when I was that age and younger kid, bro, I would have been right there fucking. In fact, I'll give you a great I'll give you a great example of this, because people often ask me, I need more or I need more edgy gamer bros on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to try to give us a pat on the back because we don't deserve one. But it's more that I do think that it's a part of our virtual world culture that people try to pretend doesn't exist. Like, you know, shout out to Josh Strife Hayes. I think his content's great. He's a really nice guy. And I mean, even just personally, like speaking with him and interacting with him, he's a great guy. And so like, that's a contrast to me. So I think that it's nice that we have a contrast. And I'm not trying to say he doesn't have skeletons under his closet. I'm sure he's wrangled a few, you know, dummies in his days, but you get what I'm saying. I'm saying like we have a contrast there. And I like that contrast. My inspiration was Total Biscuit, you know? And I'm sure many of them in the field like me were inspired by him too, but you get what I'm saying? Like, this is not to be edgy on purpose, it's to be whatever you believe in and to stand by it. So sometimes that means I can be wrong, sometimes that means I can make mistakes, but at the end it's gonna be grounded in my axioms are grounded, as they say in as they say in philosophy. But let me tell you guys this trash talk story before I forget, because it's funny. But so I was playing Rust, and you guys are gonna say, "Oh, let me guess, the kids are dude." The kids in Rust are the kids that I grew up with. These kids are built different, bro. One time, I'm sitting in this, I'm door camping this dude with my gun, right? I'm sitting there, and I'm moving around, and like 10 minutes pass, bro, and this little squeaker starts talking on chat, and he goes, "Hey, bro, I know you're there, bro. I know you've been there the whole time, bro." And I'm like, I just felt like red-faced embarrassment. I was like, oh, shit. And when I start talking, this kid starts roasting me. He's like, damn, bro, you sound old as fuck. Why are you trying to set out outside my house, my door, waiting for me, bro? You sound like you're like a weirdo, huh? And I'm like playing Rust, but I start getting like self-conscious. I'm like, And so we start like shit talking each other back and forth, and we're shooting at each other too. And this is Rust, by the way, for those that didn't get the story. and we're shooting at each other, we're yelling at each other. And then the kid out of nowhere, full stops. And he sounds like he was like 13, 14, 15, whatever. And he goes, "Hey man, want to team up?" And I was like, "Sure, bro." And we teamed up. Like, and no bullshit. Like, he didn't kill me or anything. It was such a funny story. I mean, we trash talked each other for like 15 straight minutes, bro. And then he stops talking for like a minute and he goes, "Hey man, want to team up?" And that's why it's like, for some people, they don't get that lingo. I get it. You might say, "I'm too old for that," or "I'm too this for that," or "I'm too that for that." Whatever your reasons are, you can feel superior about it if you want. That's cool. I find it fun and enjoyable. I'm also a martial artist, so I'm pretty confrontational in general. So confrontations can also be funny. Dude, I miss the sound packs and tribes. It's kind of why I've been enjoying playing Smite lately. I know people are mad about the fact that you can't keep your skins, even though I never really thought that would ever be a thing anyway. But I've been having fun playing the game because it has the voice packs from the old Smite. So at the beginning of the game, everyone has a different like voice pack, and everyone woohoos differently. And so, like if you're playing like Cupid, he's like, I can't even do it. It's such a high pitched like, woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. And then there's like fucking Fenrir. He's like, woo, woo, because he's like a wolf. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well today. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it, Luke. A few months ago, I was playing Warframe and I got paired up with a random. Chumka added me to his Discord and group. I joined voice chat, and they're all in college, and I'm in my mid-30s. Lol. Yeah, no, it's been happening to me a lot lately. It's been making me feel older. Not gonna lie, but it happens to me a lot in games like Rocket League, fucking COD, where I'll hear someone queue up their mic, and I'm like, is that a literal baby? Like, that literally sounds like a baby child. Like, why am I playing with this guy? So I want to change gears real quick off the memery real quick to Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. So we didn't really talk about it a few months ago. We were pretty busy, but it was also the holidays. But so Dawn Trail has dropped to, according to a couple of threads I've seen, to kind of mixed reviews and even negative. And I wanted to get some people's opinions about it here. And I also kind of wanted to talk about how this was predictable and how I even talked about this in my video, in my Final Fantasy Life of a Game video. I talked about it with Stormblood, then I got a bunch of people coming after Stormblood with the next expansion that did really well, and then like celebrating and being like, haha, you were wrong. But I was like, no, but that's not my point. My point is this. When you built your audience on waiting for the next content drop, and there's no emerging gameplay or sandbox gameplay in between that, because that's not how you design the game, what happens is you put an insane amount of stress, workload, and production on your team to come up with the next expansion. That's why it takes them a year and some change every time to come out with the next expansion. In fact, let's check that. Dawn Trail launched July 2nd. But obviously you don't review an MMO right away. Heavens, what's the one that came before that? It's the one that everyone likes. Fuck, the one with the Black Knight guy in it. Can somebody help me here? I'm fucking an idiot. I'm just gonna keep, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna keep typing letters until it comes up. Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers came out in July 2nd of 2019. Wowzers. You guys understand what that means? It means that they took like 5 years, the length of a new game that they could have created, to come out with an expansion that has seen 2 Final Fantasy games launched since that time that are really good ones. Or one's like so-so, one's really good. And a bunch of other Japanese games since. Yes, the virtual world market and MMO market isn't getting that much better. So it's not like they can say like, oh, it's because there's better virtual worlds now. Well, not really. Especially not direct competitors. Besides like WoW, it's the only one really. Maybe ESO, maybe. And I'm not talking about like money making, you know, I'm talking about the type of formula it has. I'm forgetting Endwalker? Okay, when's Endwalker? Eesh, 4 years. I guess if you 3 years, if you're gonna count. Well, no, it's 3 years and so 3.5 years. So basically, I was like, I think 2 years off. So that's still absolutely horrible. Like for reference, like you're getting a couple new zones, maybe 3 new raids max, and maybe 1 or 2 trials or dungeons for 3 years of time. So that means that like, do you keep your sub going for 3 years? Yeah, a lot of people did. That's a genius fucking business plan, dude. Shout out to Yoshi P and his community for creating such a good community that it can trick the player base into being dumb enough to hang on for 3 years to wait for the next expansion. Now, I'm being a bit facetious here, but I'm being facetious for a reason. There's a reason that the market right now is so in the dumps. It's because we celebrate 3-4 year expansions. EverQuest came out with an expansion like a year after it came out. Even UO did. All the original MMOs, like of MMO names, had expansions within a year or 2, and were releasing expansions for like a decade. So I think there's like this weird standard because Endwalker, or rather Final Fantasy XIV's reached a lot more players, that people think the formula works differently. It doesn't. The only difference is Yoshi P's convinced his audience that it's okay to stop playing the game or to keep paying for the game and just wait for the next content to come out. And that's genius. But that goodwill only lasts so long, and I've always maintained that it's only going to last as long as the next expansion doesn't do that well. Because then people are going to be like, wait a minute, I have to wait another 3 years for this? After one didn't do well? The difference between this and WoW is WoW has a whole PvP scene as well. And I'm not going to pretend that it's like progressively gotten better. I don't think it did. Its PvP scene is orders of magnitude better than Final Fantasy XIV's. So if anything, Final Fantasy XIV actually offers a lot less to you. But what it offers, for those that enjoy it, it offers what many people argue, even with some people not liking Dawn Trail, a better experience. And I think that that's both good and interesting. So the in-game stage for casuals weren't there compared to Shadowbringers? Ah, okay. Meanwhile, you said Shadowbringers field operations are still being played to this game, or to this day. There's 4 expansions. I think they all had 2.5 years in between. Single moms keep Final Fantasy XIV afloat alone. Okay. I want to know what the data is on that, because I think a lot less women play it than you guys think. And the reason being is that the highest percentage of women that have ever been, like, I've seen statistically, that have played a virtual world was UO. And that was a quarter of them. I think if you count The Sims Online for the short reign it had, I think it had like a 40% female audience, which is insanely high, especially back then. But I think people have this kind of idea that because Final Fantasy's nicer, it will attract a lot more women. But I don't think that those things are necessarily correlated. I think it's more likely that if you can do more things in a game besides fight and be the hero, There's more chances that you'll be attracted to the game when you're not the typical person attracted to the game. Yeah, let's see if we can do like an expansion pack breakdown. I feel like they should have one, right? Okay, here we go. I'll put it on screen for you guys. A Realm Reborn, A Realm Awoken. This is all 2.1, 1. Whatever stuff. Okay, so Heavensward happens about 2 years after A Realm Reborn. So correct to what that other guy said. 2 years later, Stormblood. 2 years later, Shadowbringers. 2.5 years later, Endwalker. And then 3 years. Oh no, wait. Is this the one that I was doing the math on? So they actually kept their 2.5 years since Shadowbringers to Endwalker. So they went 2.5 years from Endwalker to Dawntrail as well. This is another increase in level cap, as it talks about here. They added a limited job, and it upgraded the visuals. Thank you, MMORPG Gal. I appreciate it. What about Neopets? Neopets is a classic. Dawntrail was also meant to be a new point of entry for people. You don't need to play all 15 years of content to join there and appreciate it. I think that that's a good idea. I think the better way to do that, though, is just to make a good leveling experience. But I'm like the meme of that guy that they kick out the window. No one ever likes to have me in Final Fantasy XIV discussions because I always stop everybody and say, hey, wait, can you point out which Final Fantasy game has a bad leveling experience? And they're always like, because there isn't one. Imagine a Final Fantasy game with like a bad leveling experience. The fuck? It's like the point of the game is to level. So it's like, I sound pedantic sometimes. I know people think I'm Mr. PvP, so that's why I hate Final Fantasy XIV. I'm a massive Final Fantasy fan. Like, talk to me about Final Fantasy. Ask Errant Thief or Piper in chat. Like, I will talk endlessly about Final Fantasy for hours. I love Final Fantasy. But Final Fantasy isn't the same as Final Fantasy XIV. And I've kind of accepted that for many years now. But I have to remind people of that every now and then because they love to typecast you. You just hate Final Fantasy. Then why have I played nearly almost every single one and beaten like 7 or 8 of the major ones? Multiple times. I beat 7 3 times. I beat 8 twice. I beat 9. I beat 10 4 times, including in the remaster version. Like, I played 10 too. I almost beat it. I'm not gonna claim that I beat it though. I'm not gonna lie. I got bored at the end. It could be, because it seems like the 6 months in addition only happens during lockdown and post-lockdown. But to be clear, let's say like I afford you that all like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months works. Dawntrail has failed as an expansion. So like let's clear like the bias out of the way. It's not a good expansion. Rated by the fans who are playing the game. Not even me who's even I haven't even played it yet. I haven't even played Shadowbringers yet. So that's like where my knowledge ends, is there. I've gotten to the Stormbringer stuff, like the open world stuff, which I actually think is the better part of the game. But I just, other things come up. Final Fantasy XIV doesn't pay my bills. Other games and covering other content does. But like, if I afford you the 6 months because of COVID, Dawntrail hasn't done well. And Endwalker, I think, was a good expansion, but it wasn't to the level that Stormbringers was. Now what? Now they're going to lose at least 250k subs. And then, how long to the next expansion? If it's another 2 years, how long will they bleed until that point? And then once that one comes out, what if it's not good enough? What if another competitor comes out with a story, cooperative, dungeon-based game? in the 2-4 year time during that span. You see what I'm saying? It's why like making a virtual world and trying to make it future proof is literally delusional. It's impossible. It's a great idea in theory, but even Yoshi P's not dumb to that idea. That's why he's talked about wanting to make another virtual world. It's why he also went and worked on Final Fantasy 16 and has worked on other projects. This is not his only game. And I think that makes sense because A, I don't want it to be his only game. He's extremely talented, and the virtual world industry needs him making more virtual worlds. But another thing, and I think he's talked about this in 2 different article interviews in Japan. One of them was the one concerning the difficulty level in the game. He mentioned that he has an issue now. Anytime he tries to add friction into his game, he finds that a lot of people push back. So much so that he doesn't know how to like develop around it. And he says that he thinks he's going to have to literally push against people and make the game more difficult. And this might sound very normal to most developers. You're probably laughing, being like, that's what most of us do. Yeah, but to be clear, Final Fantasy XIV, including Yoshi P, has relented so much on casualifying the game when it already was pretty casual. They removed the majority of the hard combos, the movement-based stuff. They made all of that stuff easier. And here's the kicker. The audience supported this stuff. And I know some people in chat, some of my watchers will say, we didn't. Yeah, because you guys are probably more of like the hardcore / medium crowd. But the other, I've seen thousands of people supporting these kinds of changes in Final Fantasy XIV. And that's because as you lower the floor more and more and more, everyone just keeps wanting the floor to get lowered. What downside is it for them? It makes it accessible for them. The problem is now getting to the next difficulty levels and trying to design actually hard content at a base level becomes near impossible because your player base is, for example, Final Fantasy XIV. I didn't even get any rage bait responses, even though I talked about this in my gatekeeping video. But in my gatekeeping video, I made this proclamation, and I stand by this. This is not me being edgy. I really feel this way, and I think Yoshi P even has kind of agreed. And I'll talk about my second point in a second that kind of agrees with it too. Final Fantasy XIV statistically is like one of the worst like gaming audiences in the virtual world space. Like skill-wise, they are one of the worst gaming audiences I've seen, both personally and my experiences playing the game, leveling up, seeing raids, seeing top-level content, you name it. But also just look at the clear rates, look at the clear percentages, look at the drop-off percentages. They're insane when you go from normal to the harder content. And this gets parroted a lot, and people think they can hand-wave this, but they can't. Look at last year's clear rates for Japan. They're orders of magnitude higher than every other region, including Europe, so it's not just America, and including wherever on a map you want to point and poke to. And my issue with that is that essentially what Yoshi P's having to do, and his team, of course, is design a game for his Japanese audience in the hard modes, and then design the base game for everybody else. And I don't really like that as a concept, because it means that you're so spread, you can't really make the most optimal game. This is personally my bias, is I dislike difficulty game types. But let's push that out of the way, because Final Fantasy XIV has difficulty types in it, and other Final Fantasy games have difficulty types in it. So I'll push that bias aside and say, okay, well then how do you make it work with difficulty types? You still have to make the game harder. Like, think about that for a second. What is a higher percentage chance in converting a player to the next difficulty tier? Putting them in the difficulty tier and hoping that they just improve on their own and on their own merit, aka like martial arts, aka like, I don't know, Japanese culture. Their culture is a buff, a major buff there, right? And I know, because I grew up doing martial arts, and Japanese and Korean culture especially taught me the most about hard work, how to practice properly, and how to dedicate yourself to like something in particular. These cultures taught me more than any other culture, like by far. Don't get me wrong, being Mexican taught me how to work hard and how to enjoy life. Thank God I got those parts too, but you get my point. That is true, they came up with a mobile game, guys. So now they've opened up, this is genius. I'm glad you mentioned that, because now they have extended the life cycle. Even if the PC game shrinks, the mobile game's still there. And the PC players will go play the mobile game even.
Sorry, I've got to catch up in chat. Everyone knows I'm horrible at that. I would blame. Yeah, okay. We got some agreement on the COVID stuff. Currently working on Rebirth. Loving it so far, but you can see the Assassin's Creed influence on it. Shadowbringers is fantastic. I gotta play it. Element, are you talking about the recent expansion that you said you didn't like? Dancha only likes because people didn't fail this or didn't like the story, but that's the problem of the game. So damn, I want Sean. You nailed it. I was gonna call you bro, but whatever your pronouns are, bro. Um, it. I think that like that's the problem, right? The same thing happened with Knights of the Fallen Empire and Star Wars: The Old Republic. For most like Star Wars: The Old Republic fans, let me go call Card in here to, you know, the only other person who's played probably more than I have, is like KOTFE in the SWTOR community. Almost all of us dislike it. Like, I know there's going to be a fringe person in the chat saying, I like it. Okay, maybe a couple of people like it. But the majority of us dislike it. We don't like it. So we stopped playing the game. Because that's the whole point of SWTOR, is to play it for story. So the problem is if they don't like it just for the story, that is part of the problem. It's because it's part of the container and the design. Compare this to Monster Hunter Wilds that's going to come out, or Dragon's Dogma, online before they fucking canned it too soon. These games weren't completely reliant on that. Does that make sense? Because they have progressive difficulties, because they have progression mechanics in them that aren't just based around getting to the next, raid tier and fighting the next monster. I mean, because that part's similar, but Monster Hunter took a section of that and focused solely on it. So the gameplay's better, the graphics are better, the presentation's almost always better, right? Because it just looks and feels better. And that's the other problem with Final Fantasy XIV. Is SWTOR had that problem a little bit, but Final Fantasy XIV is going to have that problem even more so because it has less to do besides the story and the raid content. And don't get me wrong, the raiding in Final Fantasy XIV is way better than SWTOR. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying Final Fantasy XIV is known for progressing to the story, doing the dungeons and the raids. Voila, you're done. Now you can do it again with another class on your same character if you want. But as far as when I've talked to players, I think like less than like a quarter of players even do something like that. So the majority of players are just going through it in a single experience. And here's the interesting thing. Throughout that experience, the majority of those players are only playing with probably 8 to like 16 players max. So what does that mean? Uh-oh, here comes my MMORPG argument springing from the shadows. It's because the problem with Final Fantasy XIV is that its container is the problem. And I think Yoshi P knows that. There's nothing he can do to fix that. Yes, the difficulty problems and the stuff I've talked about with the audiences and the dumbing down of the game for consoleization, all of that exists, all of that's real. You can't change that. The game's already been, consolified or whatever. It's already been built for that. Don't get me wrong, I know they made the game easier over time, but you get what I'm saying. It was kind of already built for that. The bigger problem is the container. It's kind of fucked. They can make the presentation and they can make the story nicer. They can't really buff the presentation that much more. There's a ceiling there, right? That ceiling is the old relic of 1.0 in the previous game getting morphed into the second game. So if they never had that first game, would they have those, the same problem? Probably not, right? They would have been a lot more adaptable. Would they still eventually have the problem? Absolutely. But they would have had a lot more time. You see what I'm saying? I can't wait for GTA Online 6. Like, anyone that knows me knows that I'm a GTA fucking stan. Like, I mean, here, I'm gonna show you guys this. Check this out. You think that? My uncle got this for me because he's a collector, and he knows I like to collect too. And it's funny because I actually played GTA 2 as a kid. I played it on the original PlayStation, I think it was. And I didn't even know that that's what the game was, but it's because my cousin bought the game and he was underage, and so was I, but he was even younger than me. So his mom's like, you can't play this game, so I would play it, like sneakily. This was on the border of Mexico shit. Me playing GTA. But yeah, this is the collection that comes with the first two. The shitty thing is I actually used to have multiple collections. I had 3 in Vice City as well, for those that know. That was a legendary collection bundle. And I also had Liberty Stories. Or is it Liberty City and Chinatown? I can't remember which one it is, but I had one of those other packs for the PSP. I've always been a big fan of GTA, and specifically their bundles. So this one is like goated. Here, I'll open it up so you guys can check it out. Because it's vintage, bro. It hasn't even been opened. Look at this. GTA 1 hasn't even been opened yet. I opened GTA 2 because it's my favorite. Fuck. The disc fell out, but check this out. Hopefully this is interesting, because I doubt you guys have seen this one before. This, I need to get another case for this one, because it's kind of damaged. I can tell it, like, got sat on or something. And check this one out. This disc is clean, man. Look at how cool the old disc stuff used to be. Again, there's a little bit of damage on it, so sorry about that. This one even has, like, a poster. And also, for those that don't know, David Jones is Scottish. I'm also Scottish. On my mom's side. I'm like 30% or some shit like that. My family immigrated in the early 1900s. So shout out to David Jones as well, Scottish legend. This is dope. Love this shit. What's up, Hunter? Paladins is coming soon. So is Smite, by the way. To the Final Fantasy XIV fans in chat, to someone who's only dipped into the game, was Don Trail's story problem more because it was poorly told? So what I heard, Madness, and again, this is going through my other major Final Fantasy fans, so they could be biased. They told me, like, and I meant like 14 fans. They told me that the problem is that because Endwalker or Shadowbringers and Endwalker are so like epic, Dawn Trail has this like coming down effect where it feels kind of campy. And while I'm okay with that, because I'm a Final Fantasy fan, most of the games are like that. I don't think Final Fantasy XIV fans are into that stuff as much. Maybe with like the Golden Saucer, the side stuff, but like it seems like that was like a big complaint. People still want to be the hero. But see if other people agree or disagree. Final Fantasy 15 was more open world than 16. Or no, 14, sorry. I don't know about 16. 16's pretty... It's pretty, like, action-y. And you go in, like, straight lines, kind of. I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's not as open world in design as 15. And I think that's on purpose. Yoshi P talked about that before. Wanting 16 to feel more kind of like an action game movie. But I haven't played it yet. So this is just going off of my cousin who's played it. The main gripe I had with Dawn Trail was that they treat the player character as a side character. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hinting at, huh? Then you got main villains threatening the world when you were standing there who destroyed and defeated the gods. Yep. Same thing that I had with SWTOR when they tried to tell me that I'm supposed to be the guy that's like the one who defeats the Emperor. Meanwhile, I'm just like a fucking smuggler who just like fucks way too many like aliens and gets into too many like bar fights and shit. It's like, why am I fighting the Emperor? What the fuck? Like, but it's because everything goes back to this like with these kind of story by expansion MMOs or Morpgs more so, I think. They focus heavily on you being a hero and constantly fulfilling your hero fantasy. The problem is that's a tall endeavor. It's hard to make you feel like a hero all the time. Literally. Like Final Fantasy XIV is a difficult game. If I ever sound like I'm like negative about it, I'm more negative about aspects around it and kind of things it's created. But the game itself is fucking genius, bro. like not just because it's able to compete with WoW, not just because of its story, but because it's taken essentially players who would never ever play this kind of game and made them play the game, and simultaneously given them a place to feel, I would argue, welcome. So that's what virtual worlds are about, after all. Yeah, well, SDD, to be fair, that's not the Final Fantasy crowd's interest. They like playing a bunch of different classes. Class identity doesn't really matter in that game as much. I think it's more about you being the hero of time. That's how my friends explain it to me. I wouldn't have mind being a side character to someone's tale if the main character of the tale was compelling. Chinatown was a DS mobile game and PSP as well? Gotcha. Yeah, I know it was PSP because my friend had it. Wait another 30 years and that piece of collector's edition would be worth a lot, I think. Yeah, I mean, Madness, from what I was reading through it, I got a mixture of both. So that's a really good question and point. I got a mixture of people saying that it was because they just don't want to do it. They want to be the hero, and maybe not even saying it in those words. And then I also got people saying kind of like I want Sean just said in chat, which they said, for me, it was cool. Like, if they did a better job with it. So if he felt, or they felt more like a hero, they'd be happier. By the way, let's talk about the gender thing, because that shit's funny to me. Whenever you hear me talk about they, guess what? I don't give a fuck about virtue signaling or the woke, whatever the fuck, lingo. We've been asking people for pronouns in RPGs, especially online ones, since the 2000s, the early 2000s, and even the late 90s, I would argue. But I wasn't playing MMOs then. Okay, I only started playing in like 2001. I was still playing StarCraft and Diablo in 99. You get what I'm saying? And so it's not a weird thing to me. People have different characters in RPGs. Sometimes people play female characters. That was a shock for many people when that became a thing, but it wasn't a shock for me because I always encountered people who would play girls. Guy in real life. Anyway. So Element talks about some of them knew it was coming, that there would be kind of issues of continuity there. Interesting. They had a different writer. Uh-oh, that writer's gonna get a lot of shit. I hope the Dune MMO is kind of good. To be fair, a lot of outlets are calling it that, and Mag can back me up on this because I think Mag is a tester. He's a tester. They're calling it a survival MMO, so they're trying to actually not get yelled at like they did with Conan Unchained, and say that it's kind of like a mixture, because a lot of it's still instanced, but it's under NDA, so I can't really talk about that yet, but I have a lot of people in my Discord who know a lot about it, so we'll talk about it soon. In the Project 1990 or in the Project 1999 servers for EverQuest, you can still get tons of free stuff if you make a female character. I remember the excuse was if you had to stare at an ass for 1,000 hours, which one would you pick? Yeah, people would say that all the time. For me, it's always been about animations. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm Mr. Animations. So any game, all I do is I just look at the animations and see which ones are best, and I pick that character. I used to play female characters in WoW back then because men were ugly. I don't think it's a gender issue. It's an I. Wait, what's a gender issue? Because we were talking pretty broadly. Maybe you mean something specifically. It's the idea of a real life agenda leaking into fantasy. What do you mean real life agenda leaking into fantasy? Explain the Isabella scene in Veilguard. And for those that don't care about or don't want it to get spoiled, close your eyes and your ears, because I'm not gonna play Veilguard based on how everyone's described it. If I cover it and if I play it, it's gonna be because I'm gonna make content on it, not because I'm just gonna be like, looks awesome. I mean, Origins is my favorite game. I think Inquisition's shit, literally. I don't think it's a good game, and it's the best-selling game in the franchise. So I've been outside of the Dragon Age bubble for a while. Okay, I know I'm not like I'm a minority opinion, but it's probably because I'm an MMORPG fan, and Inquisition feels like a shitty one of those, you know. That's still the case unless you play an elf. Oh, you're talking about if characters are ugly. And Dragon Age 2, Isabella was a badass hot femme character. Yeah, she was the one that I romanced. It was a little off that she acted the way she did. Well, but like, you gotta explain it. Do you know the story? Or at least just go pull it up right now and explain it to us. I don't agree with that statement. Hunter thinks that the male bodies in online characters are more appealing nowadays than they were back in the day. In what way? Maybe you're into femboys? Because I thought like the big major like buff man archetype was common back then, but maybe if you're not into that, you wouldn't, you know, care. To a barf. What's up, Skip Jump? You still gotta explain element. I mean, anyone else in chat know what element's talking about? Like, I'm not even capping. I'm being like serious. Like, I like to do discovery as a group and us come to conclusions even when we don't know things together. And I still don't. I don't know where you're talking about. You know. So I mean, if anyone else in chat can understand it, can you break it down for me? Because I'm trying to. I haven't played Veilguard, and I've only watched a few review videos on it, including Noah Caldwell? Is that his name? Noah Caldwell, I think, something like that. Isabella is the one behind the duo barf scene. It's the scene where Isabella punished herself for addressing a character in the wrong gender. How does she punish herself? That sounds kind of kinky, but I don't think that's what you mean. No, I like big beefy dudes, but back then male bodies were extremely square. Ah, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. They were very squarish. Well, let me know what you think MMORPG, Gal. Maybe I'll play it at some point, but I'm not like jumping to it because everyone was waxing about Inquisition, and I got it at launch, and I fucking hated it. So it's not to say that like people are waxing about Veilguard, so I'll like magically hate it, but I just didn't like it. Just seems campy. The problem I have anytime I watch Veilguard's dialogue is the dialogue is really boring. Like, I know, not much deep analysis there, but it's just boring. Like, I remember I watched the intro scene, and the characters were just jib-jabbering, going back and forth. It looked like a fucking Anthony, or fucking Aaron Sorkin scene, except without good actors. No offense to the voice actors, but I'm just saying in that role. And then, like, boring-ass fucking story. it was just weird. It felt like, fuck. I shouldn't say this out loud because someone's gonna turn this into a video, but you know what Veilguard felt like from watching it? Saints Row, but like the woke version. You know what I'm saying? Because it has that weird like visual where it kind of looks like Saints Row, and simultaneously it has this like stupid dialogue to it where like you don't give a fuck, but no one cared about the dialogue in Saints Row anyway. I don't know, man. Oh, it's a scene on YouTube? Alright, let's go pull it up. Yes, it sounds weird. Doing push-ups as a way to punish yourself is, can you guys tell me which one it is? Oh, maybe this one, because this person has a lot of outrage.
I haven't seen this yet. We can run.
Hey!
Huh? I haven't seen this yet. We can run.
Hey!
Huh?
I don't think this is the scene, but I'm trying to get the humor here. Hold on.
I brought her down. She's mine by right.
Who are you?
Makara.
Mara Namra Benarie Bala. A Tashmartarost, a Sintarala. Kuto.
It's not a bad scene. I don't get it. So that's probably not the scene. Sorry, rage baiters. It's just a scene to me. Shit.
So, Tash pries the enormous ruby out of the statue's
Is
eye
this loud
socket.
enough for you guys?
Except then it wakes up, and now it's real pissed that it's missing an eye.
Oh, my. What kind of statue is this? Big snake.
Look, here's me whenever I watch the dialogue for any clip I've ever seen of this game.
Ruby out of the statue's eye socket. Except then it wakes up, and now it's real pissed that it's missing an eye.
Oh, my. What kind of statue is this? Big snake. Not bad.
Not bad. It's a giant snake. What would have been better than that?
Dragon.
Maybe. I seen dragons though. Never a giant snake.
And now we've got a giant, angry, one-eyed snake statue trying to swallow Tash whole.
Wait, how does that work? Where would they go? Did it have a stomach?
Wait for it.
Best part is, while Tash is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's
I'm just
panties.
kidding.
I was so proud.
But it's boring as fuck, is my point. Does this actually engage anybody?
Shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh. Okay.
A barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big drawn-out apologies. So when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv.
Wait, so here's the problem. And I honestly think I might do a video on this game. Because, like, as you guys saw with my Concord video, the problem with a lot of these subjects is there actually is a lot of truth. Like when the woke mind virus is taking over gaming, and you know, DEI monsters, that is like obviously fucking retarded, but like there's truth to that. There's truth to corporatism. There's truth to inserting. There's truth to poor writing. There's truth to, oh, here's an ideal. Let's just make this a scene or a character. AKA not creating a real character. This is, all that stuff's real, like I talked about in the Concord video. And I watched so many of these scenes, bro, and I'm just like, The weirdest thing about this game, Veilguard, to me, is that it literally feels like the writers pat themselves on the back after writing everything. Like, that wasn't that good. Woo! But like, let's actually break this down. Let's break this down.
Ah, shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Okay, so that's Anthony Sorkin or Aaron Sorkin level fucking responds. She asks immediately, "What are you doing?" And she answers immediately, which is just already feels jolting to your senses. It feels very like Zoomery. Maybe that's what they were going for, but simultaneously, it feels like that's not how an actual interaction would go.
Okay.
A barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but
Now,
like
here's
most
the
of us,
plan
his
I'm really
plans
trying to
went
make.
sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crews, not
When you make things serious, you take the chances away for humor to exist. And I'm saying when you directly make it serious, not serious but humor, like One Piece. Like, it's not serious most of the time, but it has serious moments. You get what I'm saying, for big contrast. The problem I have with a scene like this, and so many scenes in Veilguard, is that they're boring scenes. There's no personality. It's not fun. If I was hanging out with someone and they started talking to me like this, I'd be like, look, I'll play the scene, and as they started talking to me, I'd be like this, like.
What are you doing?
pulling a barb.
Oh. Okay.
A barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crews, not good for morale, but there's not always time for big drawn-out apologies. So when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a barv.
But I didn't ask for your apology. Nor did I feel like my boundary was terminated in this scenario. Not even the character said anything regarding any of that. That's not just like being woke. That's the bad part. It's the interaction doesn't even make any sense. It literally doesn't make sense because the other person didn't even say, hey, that's not my gender. What are you doing? And then Isabella's like, my bad, let me do push-ups now. No, she literally patted herself on the back and said, don't worry, I've punished myself for you. It's all good now. Again, like, I know that feels good for people who like to virtue signal a lot on the internet and in their circles, but like, guys and girls, it's not how interactions actually go, how social interactions go. For example, I've misgendered people before and they've misgendered me before. Did I start doing like push-ups and profusely apologize? No, what the that's not helpful to teach this shit. You see what I'm saying? It's not even helpful. But it's fantasy, they're being funny. It's not funny, but it's fantasy, they're trying to teach you something. What are they teaching you? To take offense for other people? To make assumptions? To do it all because you want to feel good about yourself? Oh, it's so you won't have to say sorry. I feel great. That's what the problem is that the people who comment about this most of the time don't see any of this stuff. They're just remarking, wow, genders? What idiots. Like, that's like the low IQ version. What actually is going on is like, this is not a real interaction. It's not how people actually interact, including if you were to misgender somebody in a real scenario like this. So if you're trying to actually teach people about gendering and the concept of that and social rules, you failed. And that's what I see in so many of these Veilguard scenes that I get shown. This is just one that I watched, but I've watched many of the scenes that I've seen in the reviews, and I see the same thing. It literally feels like the writer's just like, I'm so fucking cool. Like, what the fuck? It's so weird, bro. Yes, X-Men 97 is a golden standard of handling progressive social issues, racism, genders, slavery, class warfare. Everything you want to learn, go watch X-Men 97. I'll do a video, not again. What's up, Booty Ting? Yeah, and that's the problem, Madness, is that because of the culture war going on right now with a bunch of incels and like the angry, you know, whoever crowd you want to associate that with, because there's really only one crowd that they largely like to associate with. That is a separate thing. That has to do with lack of social skills, lack of third places like virtual worlds for people to congregate to, socialize, express themselves. And the part of it is also just a culture. Lack of environment, public transportations to incentivize people to socialize more. This is speaking mainly about America because I'm American. I'm Mexican American, but I'm American. So I'm talking from that perspective. The issue that I have with games like this is that they don't realize how much harm they're doing by doing it badly. This is something that I talk about with other trans people in secret. There's two things I talk about with trans people oftentimes when I talk to them. I tell them, just so you know, the world doesn't give a fuck about your rules. And when people, if I've never encountered a single person who's ever got offended by that, it's everyone around these people who will get offended about something like that. Why? Because I'm telling them, you need to realize the world doesn't give a fuck about you and hasn't since 2,000, 3,000 years and historically hasn't given a fuck about people like you. That doesn't mean that they will forever not give a fuck about you, but it just means that historically they haven't, so you gotta be careful, right? The other thing is that it does a disservice to people who actually want discovery and want to learn about this shit because they're getting fed Veilguard, they're getting fed Concord, they're getting fed these games that feel like they not just have agendas, the games are not really good, right? Like, yes, the gameplay in Veilguard's not bad. I have to defend it. If you guys want to attack the game, you can, but the gameplay's not bad. It's not, I'm an Origins fan, so I prefer RPG style, but I think they did a good job compared to what they did with Inquisition. I hate the combat in Inquisition. I think 2 has better combat, literally, but anyway. In order to actually teach people these important lessons, you have to do it like X-Men 97. You have to do it in a way where you're not sitting there saying, I'm trying to teach you a lesson, and not just trying to teach you a lesson, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for it. I feel good because I'm doing good things. But the problem is that when people feel like they're being lectured, they tune things out. And worse, when you're bored listening to the dialogue and they're saying campy shit, and they're like spanking themselves and shit, you're just like, this world is weird. I don't want to be a part of this world. Of course, all the culture war stuff comes and says, that's going to control gaming now. It's like, no, you vote with your dollars. So what you're doing is exactly what you should do. You should shit on it and say you don't like it. Now here's the problem I often have with people thinking that I'm on the other side of the fence because of my statements. I'll get lumped in with people then saying, oh, but then you're okay with the game failing and these people receiving harassment. It's like, okay, to be clear, harassment outside of your work? No. Harassment, aka criticism based on your work and the quality of it? Yes. The problem is there's a deluge of bullshit on top of that, that if you're a developer trying to get good criticism, you have to be willing to go through the deluge. And let me put it this way, I'm going to be fair to those developers because I know many of these developers in real life. They don't have the patience for that. They don't want to go through a bunch of 20 comments saying dumb shit that doesn't make sense and shitting on them at the same time. But if they went through those 20 comments like I do sometimes, they might find that one that tells them, bro, the writing here feels plastic. But they get, you see what I'm saying? Because the other side creates this big fire and pitchfork thing, it makes it harder for the other side to actually get real criticism. That's what I talked about in my Concord video. That's why if you're a person that likes to just join random angry mobs without any idea or any actual solution in mind, like, congratulations, I'm not interested in that. I actually want to know where can we go from here? And for me, I'm looking at Veilguard and I'm thinking, what's Mass Effect 4 gonna be? Is it gonna be more, how do you do, kids? Oh shit, my bad, you're an alien. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, that doesn't make sense in Mass Effect. There's aliens and shit that are like 2 genders and no genders. So like, You see, that's where it feels like an insert, is when fantasy already has concepts like multiple genders and has existed for multiple years, including the real world. But I'm saying fantasy games and fantasy worlds. Sci-fi especially has it. But if you sit there and you go, how do you do, fellow kids? Trans rights, gay people are great. People will see that shit and be like, why the fuck is that in Mass Effect? What the fuck? Like, but there's ways to do it. You don't do it like this. The spanking thing is just insane to me. I know they're doing push-ups, but I take that as like a self-spanking. You don't like the character model, Hunter? That doesn't make a scene bad. The guy laughing at that scene previously, I think he's like a reaction YouTuber / streamer guy. A character doing something prideful because they're a Khan or a Coon, I think is how you pronounce it. Do you guys know what that race is like, especially the women? Is that an insert? Absolutely. They wanted to insert a female Coon, Khan, whatever the fuck character into the game on purpose. But is that strange? Nah, not really. But the gendering stuff, I mean, we've already been down that. You're not helping a cause, right? Tosh berates people for misgendering them, but misgenders people all the time. Kind of the irony of what I'm talking about. When you try to be too performative about how good you are, everyone starts taking a magnifying glass to everything you say and do. That's the vibe I got, James, too. Is it feels like everyone is like here for an AA meeting. Okay, guys, let's sit down now and
Go.
Any reason you can't just apologize?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know.
I genuinely hate this writer. And I'll tell you why. You are teaching people that saying sorry isn't actually sorry. That's a horrible ideology. And before people say, yeah, but Isabella is not a just character. She looks pretty just here compared to how she acted in the second game. So this is the character they're trying to portray, is that she's just. And then she literally simultaneously virtue signals about how, no, the way that I do it's the real way you're supposed to say it. For people that don't know, everyone loves to associate me with one side or the other. But what you'll realize is that I hate both of the sides in this culture war at the moment. And no, that's not a both sides argument. I think the incel people are a lot more of an idiot. But simultaneously, people think that because I spend more of my time railing on those idiots, that this kind of writing is okay. And that not taking criticism as a developer is okay. Like, I don't know, I just think that that stuff's really corny. And I know people are gonna hate me for this, because recently I'm covering multiverses right now. And the development team said on multiverses, they've been getting like death threats and like, you know, hate messages and stuff, and like, give us criticism, but like, don't send us that stuff. To be clear, they have been giving you criticism for like a year. You brought the game down, brought it back, ignored the criticism, and then wondered why a bunch of people are being critical of you. Second, you are covering famous IP characters. People jerk off to these fucking characters, bro. Literally. You don't think they fucking cry about them? Or beat someone up over them? Are you fucking kidding me? Yes, they would. Which means, guess what? That's a landmine you step into as a developer. Oh fuck, I'm covering Game of Thrones? Oh fuck, I'm covering Batman? Ah, fuck. Sorry, that's a part of the gig, brother. You're joining a difficult job in a difficult position. So I don't like that. Developers come out and then say, hey, don't say all this stuff. Guys, that's part of the internet. I'm not excusing it, but I get death messages. I get death threats. I get called all kinds of slurs. But do you really ever see me dedicate that much time to talking about it? No, because that's A, helping the people that do that stuff to you, and B, it's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on teaching people about virtual worlds and gaming and the market. If I focus too much on that stuff, I'm not going to have that outcome, you know? Yeah, Final Fantasy Online character is a femboy or Shrek. I do agree with that. Y'all yelled at me for missing the scene, my bad. My bad, y'all. I'm kind of blind. Yeah, it's self-flagellation. That's the thing, is like people know about me. I'm an ally. I believe people should have human rights. A fucking shocker. I don't really gender myself. Oh my god, that means technically I'm non-binary. Like, there's things like this that are true about me and true about what my beliefs are. But the real truth is just like, even God acknowledged people that were not normal gendered. Even God acknowledged people that were not normal of the mind. So it's always strange when God could do it, but his followers can, or everyone else, if you're an atheist. A dude in fucking the BC could be like, what is your gender? As a question. But you can't ask that in 2001, 2010, 2050. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit absurd to me. But part of my thing is that I'm not a progressive. I'm a progressive history person. Let me tell you the difference. Progressive is a person like this, who writes this, who wants you to pat themselves on the back for saying, this is really how you do justice in the world. Which is literally not doing justice. And it's also taking massive assumptions and basically using like harmful language to then police people to be good. Which is the opposite of what you want. It's like a chaotic evil character and Dungeons and Dragons saying, everyone must use the correct terminology, bzz, and then fucking zapping everyone with their lasers. Like, is that tolerance? No. They're chaotic evil, bro. Oh, sorry, I should say lawful evil. Because a chaotic evil person would just kill people randomly. A lawful evil person would say, no, there's a reason for this, like Magneto. One-sided lecturing that feels like it only comes from one direction of, like, the aisle. Doesn't help the whole men versus women thing. Thanks, Skylar. I think it helps that, A, as I said, I'm not a typical gendered person myself. I've mentioned before, my brother is a furry, trans as well. They don't care if I tell people that. There's other people that I grew up with. I remember the first time I got into voice chat with this guy I played with years. And it was a guy. He was dressed up as a girl that whole time. So when I talk about these stories, I'm talking about them from the heart. Like, this guy was great. He gave me stuff. He taught me how to play. He was my friend. She was. And I never treated them like a girl. Just treated them like a person. So in that moment when I was in chat, I didn't skip a beat when I heard a guy talk in a, you know, pretty feminine voice. But when I heard that, I was just like, huh, interesting. And I moved on with my life, you know? And I think that it helped that I came up on the internet playing virtual worlds and RPGs, where it's just like, look, if you want to roleplay that you're a girl character, you know how many guys I know that do that? I can take you to a convention right now and show you guys doing it. Does that make them gay? Like, what the fuck? if that's your idea of things, it's really fragile, you know? I would like Inquisition's combat if I tried Veilguard. Weird. Maybe I should play it then. Fuck. Man. I know it's content farming at this point, but I feel like I should do a video on it and actually talk about the issue with the social issues. Maybe I'll fucking do it, guys. Fuck it. By the way, slight tangent. It's kind of shitty news, but good news at the same time. And also just news of life. My previous editor, Tom, is no longer my editor. And it's kind of sad, especially how it went down. But I think that this has been a thing that's been ongoing for such a long time that I've been trying to find a way to make it work with Tom as my editor. But it kept coming to the point to where I was having to work with other editors at the same time. I was having to edit work myself. And just things weren't getting produced fast enough. I mean, there's multiple instances where videos would take almost 2 weeks. And for me, that's just, when this is my job, it's not sustainable to have that kind of editing, especially when their focuses are elsewhere. And so it might seem like that'd be like a negative thing, but I actually went and found an editor. And now I have a team of editors, actually, technically, working with me even here close to me. And they're already working on their first death of the game. And I've already completed the research in the second one. So what this is going to mean is that we're going to have 4 videos coming out every single month. Because we're actually going to have like a production team behind this and the ability and capability to do it. Let me go to the restroom on that note, because this is exciting shit. Okay. Me too. Magneto's one of my biggest inspirations as a writer as well. Ironically. Not just because he's a Jew, but because, I don't know, Stan found a way to make one of the most powerful villains likable. And I think that that's genius. And when I say villain, don't get it twisted. Likeable or not, lawful or not, just or not, Magneto is a villain. And that's the genius of him as a character, I think. Also, I've mentioned this before, but for those that aren't aware about X-Men, the genius of Magneto is also not just the fact that he's a villain and likable, it's the fact that his cause is just. He actually has a real cause, and there's real reason to believe in his cause. There's multiple scenes that happen throughout the series that prove him to be right and Xavier to be wrong. However, it's not that simple, so it's constant back and forth between those two. No, I do a Veilguard video, not an X-Men video. I'd love to do X-Men videos and other kinds of videos too, but it's just, you know, you gotta, when you're a content creator, you gotta find your kind of place. But we're gonna have a lot more content coming now, like I said, because I have more editing potential, so on and so forth. Only stream in YouTube? There's a stream on... Actually, yeah, there was a stream on Twitch, but whenever we got hacked a year ago, my Twitch got hacked and I just never went through the effort to get it back, so I should. You know what? I should. Because Twitch is such a big audience and most of them don't know anything about virtual worlds, so... Throw me to the wolves, I'll come back a Man, STD, you really want Dota to die, man. You hate that game. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Des, is it's not only going to be death of a game. Because obviously, I'm the boss, right? So meaning, No one's telling me, hey, you must produce only Death of a Game videos. No, it's gonna be whatever videos I end up wanting. But the reality is that the Death of a Game videos are gonna be the big focus, of course. They'll be coming out a lot more promptly. Well, so the reason why a lot of these writers can't write relatable characters, including people that try to write about social issues, is that most of these people, sorry, gonna pull some cards here, are either not a part of the social issues themselves, or they're a part of the social issues, but they're a part of them in a way where they're like essentially like exclusive. Inclusive, I should say. They only stay within their own. The problem with that is that if you're trying to teach someone a lesson and a message, this is something that I've been learning with my channel because it's a difficult thing to teach, virtual worlds and the concepts behind them. You have to make it more palatable. You have to be nicer. You have to find a way to make it simpler, right? It's a process. It's not just yelling at people and saying, why don't you understand? Or like in this, well, saying sorry doesn't really work, so I'm just gonna fucking do physical performances? Like, do you, like, understand? Like, I know I'm harping on this, but I'm harping on it because, like, the absurdity is that as someone who actually has issues myself, like a lot of them, if someone actually, like, started doing push-ups for me because they thought they offended me in some sort of way, I would be deeply uncomfortable. Deeply uncomfortable. I don't want you to do physical things for me because you need to, or whatever. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so strange, man. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but sexually, yeah, help me out. No, I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. Like, not in that context. I'm not interested in that. I appreciate the other 5 USD, by the way, moving cheek out. Yeah, like any scene I ever watch of Elgard, it makes me feel the same way, man. The dialogue scene is always just like boring as fuck. Here, I'm gonna load up the intro real quick.
Here's the first introduction with your Rook.
We finally tracked him to Manrathus.
Okay, so this is kind of cheating because they're using well-known characters, well-known intros, but I want to do an intro whenever it starts with the player's perspective, so let's start from there.
Let's try this again. Where's Nevgalis?
You think you can come into my bar and make...
Dude, my comments about the whole Aaron Sorkin shit's so accurate. Look how fast the chirp is.
Let's try this again. Where's Nevgalis?
You think...
She waits like 1 second after doing a facial reaction, so she already reacted in 0.5 seconds, and then does a face reaction.
You can come into my bar...
Or then says this.
...and make demands.
It's not a demand, it's an offer. Telling me what I need to know, it's the smart play here.
How'd you figure, sweet talker?
Nevgalis is my only shot at finding the Dreadwolf. I need to know where she is. We were supposed to meet here, in your bar. But you let Venatori cultists drag her away.
I didn't let them. They paid me.
So answer my questions and walk away with the coin. Or spend it cleaning up the place when I'm through. Your choice.
You're adorable.
What?
You're adorable.
Your choice.
You're adorable.
Yeah, that's not that too bad.
Dumad Plaza. That's where you'll find Nevgalis.
The fuck?
Thank you.
You want to get yourself killed fighting the Venatori? It's your ass.
but I don't even know who you are. I know all these names and characters.
That offer's good for all of you too. No.
If they won't listen to you, they can always listen to Bianca.
Your friend Nevgalis is at Dumont Plaza.
So this wasn't a bad scene, but let me remark about how they failed so much here real quick. You're the hero. You're supposed to be the hero, right? But Verret came in and saved the day. Nobody was taking you serious before that. So it's just like, this is one of the first scenes in the movie or in the game. Already did a shit job at making you feel epic. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to do a video on this game. It's just like, corporatism is ruining video games, man. It is. Because corporatism will use anything at its disposal. DEI, trans issues, fucking whatever. Culture war, some shit. Because it makes money. But doing it that way makes you forget that the most important thing is making a good game. And for Dragon Age, it's making a good story. And, yeah, anyway. I think I'm done with the Dragon Age shit today. It's very strange. If I were gonna do content, I mean, pretty much any video I've ever done that's been about deep analysis or reviews, I've not only beaten the game, I've usually beaten it on the hardest difficulty and done like the majority of the content. Like for example, in WoW Classic, before the first like Raid Wing launched, during the review I did everything that was in the game. I got to do everything in the game. In my Tyranny analysis, I played on the hardest difficulty and I beat the game twice. So I'm just more so that kind of person. I'm not saying you guys have to be like that. Play games for fun. I find it fun to replay games I like, especially when I'm thinking about them a lot critically. Because I like to see if like I'm really right about something, you know? So I don't think I could do analysis on something like Veilguard if I didn't beat it. So maybe that would suck in a sense if it's not a good game or whatever, but it's why I never did an analysis on Andromeda. I could not beat the game, guys. I got to like fucking 2 planets in and I was like, this game's fucking horrible. I'm not playing this shit. And maybe I should have done a video on that too. It would have been good for the algorithm, but I just couldn't even get through it. I thought it was so bad. So if that happens in this case, I probably won't do a video on it, you know? Which again, not good content creator advice, but I think just more so the kind of person that I am. Alrighty, y'all. I'm gonna head out. It was nice talking to everybody. Maybe next time we'll talk more about virtual worlds. We talked about Veilguard and we talked about Final Fantasy XIV a lot. We just didn't talk about like more general stuff. But we'll talk about Veilguard less next time. But anyway, it was nice to talk to everybody. Nice to see everybody. Nice to chill with everybody. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Have a good week. And I will see you later. The next step of the game is, well, I guess I've already spoiled it, right? It's going to be multiverses after Blacklight Retribution. So, do I plan on playing Wilds? Yeah, I think I am going to play it. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're like I'm sure people like Indigo have similar thoughts to me, which is like, you know when your thought processes aren't going to make you money. My stance on video content isn't the best for making money, but It's what makes me me, so hopefully you guys like that, because it's unique. But anyway, see you guys. Peace out.